Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to join us again after our networking break for our presentation on the European legal tech landscape. So I hope you all had a lovely break. You met each other in our lounge, at the round tables, at the networking break. And now what's awaiting for you is a super interesting presentation by two experts in their fields, by Greg and by Holger, whom I would like to introduce to you now. Holger Zscheyge is the current president and ambassador for Russia of ELTA, the European Legal Technology Association. Holger is also a well-known legal tech industry speaker, an expert and mentor, having worked as an executive in legal and tax publishing in Russia since 1996. Holger founded his own publishing company, Infotropic Media, in 2009, and is the founder of Moscow's Legal Hackers and the Legal Tech Conference and Legal AI. So very much welcome, Holger, to join us today at our conference. I also would like to introduce you to Greg. Greg Miot is a board member and treasurer of the European Legal Tech Association. And Greg is also is head of new markets and the chief evangelist for Wolters Kluwer Legal Software, and the board member and the ambassador for France for ELTA. And Greg is a former practicing lawyer and entrepreneur, having founded a consulting firm dedicated to digital transformation for legal professionals. And he also is one of our co-authors of the Legal Tech book, and regularly contributes as a guest lecturer at universities and at the bar schools. So Holger and Greg, welcome to joining us today. And I would love to hand over to you now to share your presentation, your thoughts about the European landscape of legal tech. And again, I invite our audience to ask your questions in the Q&A box on the right side. We will come to a lively Q&A after the presentation is finished, so please don't hesitate to put in your questions there. So over to you both.
Thank you, Susanne. Thank you very much, and thank you to FinTech Circle for having us this afternoon. Really delighted to be joining such a wonderful set of speakers that we had since this morning. And hi, Holger.
Hi, Greg. Yeah, hi, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you, FinTech Circle and Susanne, for inviting us. It's a great pleasure to be here, and for everyone to joining us today in this session. Hope you came back with a fresh mug of coffee after the break and are ready to have a good look at the European legal tech landscape. Greg and I will shortly, it's 15 to 20 minutes, tell you about what's going on in European legal tech. Of course, that's not nearly enough to cover everything, but that's where Elta is coming into the picture. So before we start, let me give you a short elevator pitch of Elta. So in order to get an impression who we are, what we do. So Elta was founded in 2016 as a community for like-minded people that work at the intersection of law and technology, because there was nothing like a pan-European community association for those people. And as of May 2021, we are active in more than 40 countries, actually 44 or 45 now already. And so we have members from those countries, and we are in most of the European countries represented by local, we call them ambassadors, people, boots on the ground, people that are the link between Elta and the local legal tech communities. We have now 30 ambassadors in 26 countries, so 28 in the countries and 2 in associations, for the Legal Protection Insurance Association and for the European Corporate Lawyer Association. And we are growing, so we are adding new ambassadors and new members every day, and you see the blank spots. So if you're located in one of those countries and think you can contribute as an ambassador, reach out to us. So we always ready to work with everybody in that community and with all legal tech landscape stakeholders. What can Elta do for you? So there are two things. First, we educate and inform, because we are convinced that the lack of information, what tools are available, where to start, and so on, it's a huge barrier for the speedier implementation of legal tech or of technology in the legal industry. And second, we provide a platform, a networking platform for like-minded people. As I said, everybody is welcome to join, because if you're walking at the intersection of technology and law, you sometimes are alone in the law firm or legal department. So if you all feel alone, reach out to your local Elta ambassador, to Greg, to me, to everybody at Elta, and let's have a chat what we can do for you. So now on to the presentation about the European
Exactly.
legal.
And actually, since part of our role is also to bring more transparency and more clarity around what is going on with the legal technology, and to provide clear information to legal professionals, we worked last year during a couple of months and in partnership with different organizations, including Elta and the Global Legal Tech Report, to analyze and assess what is going on in Europe regarding legal technology. This is a very wide study. We will just give you really a glimpse of what we have in there, but maybe some just trying to emphasize a couple of figures that we identify being very relevant, and some very compelling numbers around what is going on. And especially after a bump year like the one we just had, many things are changing around the perception that we have of legal technology, and how legal technology services are being provided to legal professionals. Would you like to kick off, Holger, with this first
Yes,
slide?
absolutely. So we participated as Elta in the European leg of the Global Legal Tech Report. We collected data, mainly most of the data came from a survey Elta provided for the Global Legal Tech Report. So we gathered data from 125 legal tech companies or legal tech startups in Europe. It's of course not all the startups or legal tech companies or products we have in Europe, but it's enough data to get a representative image or snapshot of the legal industry, legal tech industry in Europe. And as you see, the first top three categories, we have 26. We have identified 26 legal tech or product categories. Of course, that's always dependent on the taxonomies you use, but the one we used for the Global Legal Tech Report is quite usable and quite comprehensive. So you see, top spot is there's no big surprise, is contract or document management, and you see that in every region in the world. At the top spot is document management. It's no surprise, because documents or contracts are a huge part of legal work, and as well compliance. Of course, it's a heavily regulated industry, the legal industry, so compliance is important, case management and so on. So those are the obvious categories you would expect. That one category is sticking out a little bit from the general categories worldwide. It's knowledge management with 22% at the number 6. And that's different from every other region. Probably European legal professionals are more interested to use their
Correct.
their knowledge and manage it.
Yes, you might not see very clearly, but we will make sure to share the slides after the presentation, so we can have a deep dive. So this is a representation like the one we just showed regarding the European legal tech market, but having a global display. So from the very right side, you would have North America, South America, the APAC region, Oceania, and Europe and Africa. You would see that there is really one category standing out, which is the exact same as the one we have in Europe. So really, document automation is key in most regions. One is also standing out in Africa, and very interestingly, it's access to justice. And after that, document automation and legal research, quite at the same level. but really document automation, compliance, case management, also practice management are very strategic areas for new legal tech startups. Also discussing the different targets that we see. Holger, I don't know if you want to add a comment here for talking about the way legal tech companies are targeting their client markets.
Well, yeah, you see that the primary target are law firms, which is probably not a big surprise as well. But in our experience, law firms are quite hesitant to implement legal tech, so that's might be an uphill battle. Usually, legal departments are speedier, much more open to using technology because they are under pressure from other departments within the corporation, but they have a much larger sales cycle. So probably as a startup, the first orientation would be to go to law firms. So that's just a snapshot of what we found out.
And also interestingly, to emphasize the fact that mostly legal tech companies tend to focus on B2B practice and less on direct access to justice or direct provision of legal services, which is also highly regulated in Europe, and maybe less in other regions. So this also explains why there is this strong focus on productivity solutions, if we may say, for legal professionals. So primary target market being really law firms, secondary corporate legal departments, sometimes small businesses, medium companies, and really the law firms here as well. But really back at the last level is really consumer market, access to justice, NGOs, or government organization. Also looking at the number of legal tech companies founded by year in Europe. So here, really with different stages. Holger, if you'd like to comment on this as well.
Yeah, you see a trend. Maybe the survey did catch all the startups that have been founded in each year, but you see a trend, and the trend is very definitive until 2010 or a decade before 2011, 2012. Quite a slow growth of legal tech companies, so probably not a lot of interest in Europe to start a legal tech company, and then you see it growing. So you have a second time frame with more companies starting every year, and then it's going up in the last couple of years, 3 to 4 years, and extreme, but substantial growth of legal tech startups, and that's a trend that will continue. So you see that funding increases. We come back to that at a later stage. So legal tech is here to stay. That's for sure.
Also, we had a look at the legal tech founders, also regarding their gender, which is also an interesting fact, as well. The law firms and historically has been quite male dominated, and we wanted to also see how this was reflected on the legal tech founder side, and it was somehow a bit disappointing to see that we still had this kind of context with a more male dominated founders, with only 16% of legal techs being founded by women. And in that sense, we are also seeing with the huge really wave of new legal tech companies getting founded, this number is also increasing significantly. So we are only in the third, fourth year of this huge increase in the number of founded companies per year. So it's also very interesting to see that we are seeing more and more companies founded by women. Also more in relation, I believe, to not only to productive solutions, but also more regarding relationship to clients, practice management also. So different typology. I believe we might want to look in these figures and understand a bit more in the next version of the survey.
So if you're looking at where legal tech startup founders coming from, you see 82% are coming with a background of the legal industry, or with knowledge of the legal industry, which is interesting. It's good that people that are starting legal tech companies have in-depth information or knowledge what's going on in a law firm, in a legal department. So they are knowing the pain points, and they can develop their solutions accordingly. It's not that somebody from outside is coming into the legal industry, trying to change everything with technology. Those are people, the majority of legal tech startup founders in Europe are coming with a legal with background of working in the legal industry.
It really seems that it's an insider thing. Really, it's hard to join this industry without having some kind of background and starting something new, which is really appealing and compelling for legal professionals. We also had a look at the numbers regarding the funding of such companies and how many of the legal tech companies raised capital in the past few years. Half of them didn't raise any kind of capital, yet we are seeing that roughly 37% indicated that they have raised funds. It's also interesting to emphasize here that the average amount that is being raised is also increasingly higher in the past few years. Obviously, we are nowhere near the kind of amounts that are getting raised for fintech companies, but it is still significantly higher from year to year. We are seeing really significant numbers that are way above the common seven figure that we used to see, and maybe some numbers we could also come in, Holger, from our good friends at Legal Complex, right?
Yes. If we are talking about funding or investing into legal tech, so we have here a very good snapshot of what's going on in this year. So that's from the start of the year until May 12th, so yesterday. And shout out to Raymond Blythe of Legal Complex, who provided this. You see it first after us. This analysis based on his own research about the funding of legal tech and potentially adjacent categories like tax and law tech, but they are all somehow related to the legal industry. So in this year we have already 661 million US dollars investments in various stages. And that's going on still. Every week you have new information of new funding rounds and so on, and you see it's up a substantial percentage from last year, and that taking into account that 2020 was annus horribilis, and still money is going into legal tech. That shows that investors are very confident to invest money, and they see a future for legal tech. And if you look at where money is going, you see approximately half of it is going into seed, so it's a little bit a gamble, and the other half is going into growth. And that's a trend you see for the last couple of years, shifting from seed money into growth money. And you see that you had large growth funding this year for Breiter from Germany, or this week a contract book from Denmark. So investors are investing more and more money into growth. So that's they are confident that legal tech is here, and legal tech will stay, will develop, and I guess even more money will flow into legal tech until the end of this year.
Correct, and it's really impressive to see that we had over 120 million funded per month since the beginning of the year, and also worth emphasizing that this is 3 times what we saw 3 years ago in terms of funding of legal tech companies. So there is a much stronger interest, especially after this first step of the COVID era for legal professionals. So a strong interest here from founders. And talking about the recent challenges that legal professionals had to go through, we also analyzed the challenges that impacted the legal tech companies across Europe, which are challenges that are shared across the globe by most companies that we surveyed last year. And really here the COVID-19 pandemic was obviously a strong challenge and a difficult situation for most of them, especially although it was obviously an accelerator in terms of digital maturity, in terms of understanding needs and identifying really what the legal professionals and companies what exactly was needed in terms of technology bricks that we had to implement. It was also really much longer sales cycles that were identified, so which really were kind of a struggle for most companies, especially the youngest ones, and also with some cost cutting that were also identified. So technology isn't always the solution. It was also a hard time for the youngest startups out there. So we saw also some disappearances over the last 2 years, and even accelerated. And we might see a couple of companies being dissolved or disappearing in next year. So it's really it was some kind of a crash test for most of them, challenging their business model and also their functional approach with really real case, real scenarios that they could see out there with legal professionals. So if we are reaching the end of this this presentation, we wanted to keep some time to answer your questions, and I see already quite a few ones being shared in the Q&A section. Susanne, thank you for joining us again.
Yes, fantastic. So thank you very much, Greg and Holger, for the excellent slides. First of all, I wanted to say they all will be shared with every audience member, because I'm sure you want to be able to read them in detail and study them. So you will receive them after the conference via email. And then you can, of course, come back to Greg and Holger with any questions you've got. But let's go through the Q&A now, because we had lots of interesting questions coming in. The first one came from Dusan Kuzmanovic, and Dusan works for the Ministry of Justice, and he asked, are there any good examples of public-private partnerships for providing legal and related services?
Not that I know of. So that's usually public-private partnerships are used for large projects where upfront funding is a big issue. So not really something for the legal industry.
What we tend to see though is that public-private partnerships don't seem to be really something we see a lot for directly legal services. More we see it more for access to justice projects mostly. So really getting a private actor to step up and provide some interesting technologies to get access to legal information. This is what we might see as well, also in challenging markets with where access to legal information is sometimes a bit tricky. So this would be the most common case we might see, really more around access to justice.
Yeah.
Perfect. That sounds great. Another question came in by Ellen Blanchard, the country head for the UK from APIAX. And he said, first of all, great session. So thank you very much. Do you have any thoughts on the appetite for law firms to change their business model? Something legal tech enables them to do, but are they willing to take the decision?
I'm probably going to become rude. I don't see a huge appetite because, and it's understandable. Law firms are using a quite comfortable business model, and until they don't get outside pressure from the clients to change the business model, they're probably not going to change, or not going to change really. There are some lip service, and there are some law firms really introducing legal technologies to become more efficient, but the business model itself is not very good to encourage or incentivize an increase in efficiency. So the pressure should come from outside, from the clients. But law firms are looking into technology. That's already a good sign, but it takes some time.
Yes, I think this makes sense. Another question from David Law, founded MD. I just lost now the question. Let me see. I have to find it afterwards. But let me go to the question from Drago Indic, our moderator from before. He said, why are there only 2 ELTA chapters in Spain and in Serbia? What should be done to have more local chapters?
Well, maybe more people involved in local chapters with local ambassadors. The initiative of chapters is quite recent at Elta, and we are encouraging this practice. So to have identified experts for each ambassador, so to build some kind of network with common experts that are really shared amongst the different countries. So we could eventually have meetings of legal design experts across Europe, for example, among different chapters. So this is something we are encouraging, and many of our ambassadors are already in the process of structuring their own chapters. So hopefully we'll see more coming very soon.
Fantastic. Another question which we got was, let me check, by Alexandre Daniel. This is very interesting. Thank you. My question would be, what's the best way to approach big law firms by a new young startup? Whether by reaching out to partners who understand the problem you try to solve, or rather via their innovation teams. You know, normally each law firm has got nowadays a legal tech innovation team in the law firm. So what would be your approach for a startup? You know, whom should they reach out to?
That might be something for Greg.
Well, in my humble opinion, I believe that for law firms, you should always reach out to the decision makers, and decision makers are our partners, and especially in this period, comes still very complicated, especially in terms of investment for law firms. I believe that making a strong business case for your product with something very compelling in terms of productivity and money saving, especially around money saving at this time, should be the best way to reach out to a law firm currently. Innovation teams are always very interesting. Legal tech project managers and many different profiles internally. Those are not always the decision makers. Really, you should go, in my opinion, directly to the partner and see if your solution really matches their current challenges. What do you think, Holger?
Yeah, absolutely. So sooner or later you will end up with a partner anyway. So prepare yourself to talk to the partners and find the things that they can relate to, because they have to spend the money they could otherwise pocket. So you have to convince them that it makes sense to spend money on something they are not really, might not be really convinced to spending.
It's interesting because a year and a half ago, we used to see that the investment that was made around legal technology was more about really fancy pieces of technology and glittering tech about blockchain and AI and things like this. So the choice was first made about the kind of technology you were using. Today, the first criteria is, how do I calculate my ROI in this investment? So really about cost saving, how efficient it is, how efficient will be my team with that kind of solution. So really make your case with the partners.
Yes. We've got time for one last question. And I just see Dresca Rodriguez, who is a dispute resolution designer. So he asks about the EU regulation on artificial intelligence. So what are your thoughts on the proposed EU AI regulation? Will it offer legal certainty and consumer trust to drive the uptake? Or will it create maybe too much red tape and hinder it?
Well, it depends on the execution. Always lawmakers are always quick to come up with regulation and setting frameworks and so on, which is good. I'm not against regulation, especially if you're talking about artificial intelligence. Nobody really knows how that will turn out, not the regulation, but the development of artificial intelligence. But we probably have to find a balance, because it's especially in the legal domain, it's a new, relatively new area of application of artificial intelligence. And if you say, okay, we have a very strong regulation, then that might be that at the start. So let's find a normal. So you see already the what we see in France, probably Greg can commend it, the regulation of the use of artificial intelligence in using analyzing data, legal data, and so on. That might be a barrier to development.
Yes, just to I'll try to keep it brief so we don't go too over time. But yes, I think we just need to keep in mind that this regulation is very much inspired by what civil law countries tend to protect very much is the way we provide legal services to customers, and actually having this really protected area for legal professionals to make sure that we don't have technologies overstepping of their boundaries and trying to provide somehow a kind of legal service, because analyzing a document is extracting information and somehow answering a legal question. So this is what we want to protect somehow. So it's an interesting debate, really, and an open one. So happy to pick up this topic in the lounge afterwards.
Exactly. So thank you so much, Greg and Holger. It was a pleasure having you both with us. And as Greg said, Greg and Holger both will be in the lounge after our panel discussion is finished, the next one, which is joining us now. And so please go and join that table, and then you can speak to both Holger and Greg in person. So thank you both so much. I will end our session now and then join our panel discussion. You see the applauding hands coming all for you, for thanking you for a great
Thank you.
Today. So thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.